As I mentioned, my name is Kimberly Sims. This is Poetry Goes Viral. We will be back broadcasting again at 7 o'clock tonight on Carolina Poets YouTube channel and our Facebook page. So definitely come back and join us tonight. We're going to have Ed Mabry, Dove Dupree, and Black Atticus, all who recently competed in the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. This event is not sponsored by Southern Fried, but it is our theme. We wanted to celebrate our love for the Southern Fried Poetry Slam and the wonderful platform that has been providing for poets since it was founded by Alan Wolfe in 1993, just a few minutes ago, it seems like. But we are very pleased that we have a special guest with us tonight, which is Dorian Paul Rogers, who is a longtime participant in the Southern Fried Poetry Slam, a longtime poet, somebody who spends a lot of his life celebrating and teaching about poetry, both abroad and in the United States. I'm going to actually read his official bio, but I've had the pleasure of knowing Dorian Paul Rogers, aka Paul D, since about 2003. Just a very talented performer. I've seen him on final stage many times, winning the individual Southern Fried Poetry Slam crown. So we're just super excited that he's able to join us because he is currently living in Dubai, where he teaches English. And so for him, it is about, I think, 8:30 at night right now. So that is why we're kind of doing this special edition of our event here in the midday in the Eastern United States. But in Dubai, it is currently 8:30 at night. But I did want to share a little bit about him because he does really have a wonderful background in poetry. Let me just get his information pulled up. We had a little bit of a technical, which kind of thrown me off for just a second. But thank you again for joining us. Next week, we will not be here. We are only here the second and fourth Sundays of each month. But Dorian Paul Rogers is a performance poet and a two-time slam champion. He's a hip-hop artist, an educator, and also an events curator. In 2002, he self-published his first poetry collection for Mulattoes Only at the age of 20. In 2006, Dorian released his first poetry album, Freight Train of Thought, followed by Where's Pauldo in 2012. I think I actually have an old Paul D chapbook in my archive somewhere. I'm going to have to dig it out. He's been featured speaker at over 40 universities across the United States and has performed poetry in Ghana, Germany, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, South Africa, and Singapore. In 2012, Dorian founded Rooftop Rhythms, a monthly poetry open mic, which has gone on to become the Middle East's largest and longest running poetry event of its kind. His cultural events in the UAE have been highlighted on CNN, the BBC, and Euronews. Dorian holds an EDD in interdisciplinary leadership from Creighton University and an MS in urban teacher leadership from Georgia State University and a BS in English education from Florida State University. He currently resides in Abu Dhabi, UAE, which is with his wife and daughter. So welcome everybody, Paul Rogers, Dorian Paul Rogers.
Hello. How are you? Good to see you.
I am great. It's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm going to pop backstage and let you share some of your fabulous poetry with us. And then at the end, I'm going to kind of pop back on because I would love to just chat a little bit about our love for the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. But I will see you back in a few.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Shouts out to Carolina Poets and Wits End. During my time when I was living in the States in Georgia, I often would come to South Carolina and always felt very supported by that community. So thank you so much for being a part of my growth. And I'm excited to share some new work from my book, which is a poetry collection and adult coloring book in collaboration with my sister, Gabrielle Flood. And it's called The Million Mile Stare. So I'm going to get into the first poem, and then maybe in between poems, I can share a little bit more about the reason behind the book and the whole concept behind it. All right, so let's get started. I would like to begin with a poem called My Housewarming Gift. Most neighbors gift apple pie to welcome the newly moved in. My family got ours sliced and delivered in different ways. Mine was flung at me soon after we offloaded our lives, randomly crammed kitchenware stuff with my He-Man and G.I. Joe figurines. My sister's Sunday through Saturday underwear strewn in non-sequential order with toiletries and what seemed like not enough boxes. I think it came from the Methodist Church of all places, which had a playground only an expletives throw from my backyard. The word was wrapped in a new carbo minstrel show redder than the lips of Daddy Rice, and came out of the boy's mouth a dust devil which wisped rocks and pebbles and clods of clay to the soles of my fluorescent green and white LA gears. Welcome to Albany, Georgia. I guess just as quickly as it came, the dust devil chucked itself back into the repressive South Georgia air and just disappeared. Depending on the season, my skin tone meandered from reddish pink to beige and whitish pastels. I faked like I liked Metallica and Tool to fit in. We were cautiously accepted until Dad was arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia and graffitied into the newspaper. That night, a friend who slept over woke up before dawn and called his parents to pick him up, blamed it on nightmares. The next day, the word was hurled at me at batting practice, beamed me on the right shoulder and grazed my neck. On ricochet, I called Dad that word once, shouted it in the pillow. I regretted it the moment I said it, as it summoned the same dust devil to whirl about my bedroom, blew over my honorable mention trophy and a field day ribbon, and drunkenly stumbled over my baseball participation trophy. Surely I wasn't racist, right? Impossible. Had I contracted a mild case of Stockholm's, maybe I had begun to admire the same ones who personally delivered the hurt, who personally delivered it fresh out of the oven like apple pie for new neighbors. I learned to hate Dad for being the ground zero for all of those unwanted housewarming gifts. Nowadays, I leave blanks in rap songs which use the words modified form. It's best to leave that whirling dervish of curse words alone. It all brings up too many traumatic memories, curses, and supernatural happenings. They collectively stir up the ghosts in Albany, the same ones which cause full-term carriages, miscarriages, unexpected dust devils, earthen tremors, and out-of-season tropical storms and hurricanes. Some think of me as a conspiracy theorist, as it's no coincidence to me that the worst hurricane in decades bore my first name. You know, Carolina Poets and Wits End, I must love you, right? Because I'm performing work that is very new to me, which means a few stumbles over a few words, but I think you get it. I'm working these poems out as far as the performance because I want to bring you all fresh material. So I hope you like that. It's called My Housewarming Gift. And so the Million Mile Stare, you may have heard of the 1,000-yard stare. And this is actually like a military word for when a soldier in war is shell-shocked. And sometimes you may close your eyes and imagine a soldier traumatized by war. And so you probably could picture like a blank stare of trauma or PTSD. And so I started thinking about my childhood and some of my experiences. And I thought that, you know, actually children also, if they experience trauma or feelings of neglect or racism, that they may also deal with PTSD and trauma, as we all probably deal with mental health on a daily basis. And so I kind of came up with this hyperbolic play on 1,000-yard stare and changed it to Million Mile Stare. And so that title just hit me, the alliteration of it hit me. And I was reminded by another longtime Southern Fried Poetry family member, Asia Sampson, some years ago when I was really doing well and competing. He said, "Hey, Paul, I love your work. I always feel like when you do a poem, I'm like, why didn't I think of that? But when I hear your work, I always wonder, who is Paul D? You know, so like, what is your story?" And that really troubled me for some years because I was comfortable telling other people's stories, but not my own. And so as I wanted to be stronger on page and write a book, I also felt like I needed to kind of explore some angst that I've experienced in my childhood, which deals with one topic is, racial trauma. I was raised in mostly in South Georgia, even though I was born in Ohio. And because we didn't look white, didn't look black, I faced a lot of prejudice and racism, and a lot that may shock a lot of people. And so my housewarming gift was just trying to explore when I moved there with, naivete, and I was faced with like the repressive Georgia racism that still exists today. So that's enough talking. I'm going to go ahead and get into a little bit more that explores some of the topics I discuss in this book. And I won't do so much heavy work so early, but I would like to share another poem called Cooking with Alzheimer's. That's 1 glob of unpasteurized ricotta cheese, 12 pinches of pink sea salt, 2 cloves of fresh garlic. Let's go with 1 handful of flowers, 4 tablespoons of baby oil. This is the recipe for pancakes in the mosaic mind of my grandmother, Helen. You see, every day for 90 years, she cooked the same breakfast: sausage links, biscuits, hot cakes, grits, and bacon. And each day it tasted like the first time. Having the exact same meal every summer weekend couldn't stop us from looking forward to a tomorrow of more of the same. When the symptoms of Alzheimer's began to swallow her mind whole, all of the recipes and ingredients got forced down the trash disposal. All of her famous dishes, previously scorched onto her synapses, were now JDMULBE. She deep fried hotcakes, which came out more like muffins at first, then took on a cornbread consistency. After that, they could only be described as inedible sponge-like atrocities. We wouldn't swallow, but only chew with full mouth smile so as not to let her know that we suspected something had gone awry. We knew it was really bad when she started flipping bacon with her bare fingers. Tried to fry grits once in a saucepan full of water. Dad finally retired her from the kitchen for her own good. There was no ceremony or pomp. She snatched away at him and would have scratched him bloody if it weren't for the oven mitts she had on both hands. My uncle almost burned down the house once. He left the stove eye on max after lighting a Newport. Dad officially became caregiver on that day by no choice of his own, afraid to leave that rickety house on that widowed dirt road. Grandma would die of natural causes if he could help it. Dad told me a man doesn't learn true humility until he wipes, bathes, feeds, and puts his mother to sleep. There's no love like the reciprocal kind. None at all, which knows no nursing home. That kitchen just isn't the same without her anymore. It smells stale and in need of being cordoned off. No one cooks there anymore. We only go there on holidays in hopes of smelling a memory of her tangled up in the plastic of flower-printed curtains and the dusty dull blade of the exhaust fan above the stove. Every now and then, the bravest of us tiptoe in there, turn on the eye of the stove to max and watch it turn red, just long enough to pour libations and offer a blurred and fragmented prayer for her. That's Cooking with Alzheimer's. Hopefully you enjoy that, everybody. It's all not too heavy, but that also is me just trying to explore more about my own childhood and some of the inner turmoil, but also how family members, especially my grandmother, the matriarch of the family, still worked her hardest to keep the family together. Let's make it a little fun, okay? Lighten it up just a little bit, going back to a little bit about my childhood. This is called Ode to Yard Sales. No matter how high-tech this world gets, menopausal moms will always pull out the permanent markers and duct tape this way on neighborhood street signs on Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. until everything is going to clock. Follow the pointed arrow straight to the driveways of the soon-to-be decluttered E-Baby Dam. Come and see plastic, rubber, and plush in the flesh. Beanie Babies will always be deodorized and strewn on foldable tables, still staying with their kids' decades-old slobber, which never seemed to wash out. A few will have their original packaging and ear tags, vacuum sealed, and wait for that inevitable day that they will become valuable again. For now, get 5 for $20. This Claude the Crab one is a limited edition, I'm trying to tell you. The good old yard sale, where the thin line between hoarding and keeping items strategically until they become relevant again is right under the surface of the Andersons' perfectly manicured lawn. Naughty kids switch sticker prices by commands of their naughtier parents, who swear up and down that Sega Genesis set will be sold to them for $1, or they're calling the police for false advertisement. The yard sale, where crap on sale for $5 feels like a small fleck of gold when it's sold for 50 cents. Corners of baseball cards hint of being fastened to bicycle spokes to turn them into motorcycles. An original Picasso could be hidden behind the cheap print in faux wood frame. You just have to buy it first for $3 to know for sure. Everybody, that is ode to yard sales. I hope that connected with someone, because my mother used to always go to yard sales. So this in many ways is kind of like a poetic memoir, and there are coloring, there are drawings meant for coloring for adults. So they're more intricate designs, and you can just go to Amazon and type in The Million Mile Stare. You can get the Kindle ebook or the hard copy book. I would greatly appreciate it. There are about 30 poems and maybe 25 drawings. And whether you read poetry or not, I think it would be kind of cathartic to go through the process of coloring and connecting it with poetry. So let's do a few more. This is called Sleep Talking. Someone, somewhere, someone is traveling furiously toward you. John Ashbery at North Farm. My wife says I jump in my sleep, and I have the sneaking suspicion that she thinks I'm gay because I called his name last night. Ahmed. Who is he? She deserves to know, but I really don't know him, and anything I may say would sound like some closeted excuse. Somewhere, someone is traveling furiously towards you. I saw a boy being interviewed on CNN the other day. He told the reporter that all he wanted for his birthday was alive. He told the correspondent that he prefers dark skies because drones only come out when the sun is out. She told me that I said his name last night again, and it's the 5th night in a row. I've been acting uber masculine lately to ward off her suspicions. Didn't smile during the notebook date with her. Deepened my tone over morning coffee. Rode to Tupac on the drive home. Poets are haunted with details. Our minds are impregnated daily with a subconscious that keeps gesticulating until the baby is bigger than womb, or entrails explode from trying to keep it all inside. Somewhere, someone is traveling furiously towards you, and I'm just trying to fight off the decision of whether to get a head start in the other direction or brace myself to catch Ahmed with open arms. Everybody, that is Sleep Talking. I think I have time for one more. Hopefully you're enjoying what you're hearing so far. I'm going to do this short one called They Just Named a Comet After Malala. Meteors tracing on a blackboard, night screeching against the nothingness and everythingness of space. It all sounded like sandpaper in her right ear. Painkillers help to turn down the white noise, but never forever or completely. How do we lobby for George Floyd galactical objects, or a moon crater named for Trayvon, a black hole for Amadou Diallo, a comet for Tamir? Help to make me feel like no injustice against my people will be forgotten in the heavens. Add the martyrs to the history book so that AP students can map the celestial objects' locations and predict the day and time they will one day whiz by Earth again. Thank you, everybody, so much. My name is Dorian Paul Rogers. That's my author's name, but you may know me as Paul D. Thanks to Carolina Poets. Thanks for Wits In. May God bless you.
Thank you. That was amazing. So enjoyed it. And I'm so intrigued by the poetry coloring book. What a phenomenal idea.
I'll have to send you a copy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I put the link for everybody down in the chat. So if people want to pick that up, we definitely encourage you to support our authors. What a fun thing to pick up, and also just a way to, I think, kind of meditate on some of the themes in that book as well. Dorian Paul Rogers, I did want to ask you just a couple of questions. I know that you've been someone who's attended the Southern Fried Poetry Slam for a long time. And I think what is so amazing about that event is that you have such a great mix of poets on different levels. You have poets that are emerging poets and veteran poets and 20-year-olds and maybe not 20-year-olds anymore. So I didn't know if you wanted to just kind of speak on just kind of how it's shaped you as a poet being involved in Southern Fried.
It's hard to, I don't know if we have enough time to share the impact of Southern Fried on me, but it first starts with Black on Black Rhyme, which I found about as a sophomore in university around 2001, 2002. I was mostly into hip hop, but someone was like, you got to come check out poetry. I'm like, yeah, right. Who wants to do that? Because I only knew of poetry like Edgar Allan Poe or Robert Frost. And while I do see some value in it at the time, it didn't connect with my experiences. So I didn't like poetry, although I love words. But I was blown away. Black on Black Rhyme showed me diversity in poetry, as some people were revolutionary poets, some people were love poets, some were comedic, some were hip hop poets. And so I just became a sponge around that time. And I connected then with a group you may remember called Poets of the Fifth Element, which is Ches Kano. And since I was in Tallahassee, he was in Pensacola. I think we just naturally got an invite to perform. And then they became kindred spirits and family. A guy named Kelsey Powell, Chez's brother as well. So basically, I qualified to be on the Pensacola Slam team, and I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, let's go to New Orleans for a festival. And so I was just blown away just to see what I had learned about Black on Black Rhyme multiplied by 20, 25, 30 teams from the South, just to understand that there was already way before me a community when I thought spoken word was just like a new thing. So it really became so important to me because it was like a family reunion that my personal family did not have. I envy when families, have the Johnson family reunion and it's 400 people. But, we had more of a disjointed family spread all over America and Mexico even. And we didn't meet regularly, maybe once a decade. So it was interesting that although this is a competition, I could go against Kim and we could challenge each other and protest each other. And then right afterwards, we could be hanging out on the street till 3 a.m. learning about life. And so it became this really cool competition / festival and family reunion. And it really shaped who I am, I would say, as a poet. I helped co-organize 2008 and 2011. So I also kind of learned the grassroots events programming, and now I'm a full, I also run a business and events. So I would say it really, along with Black on Black Rhyme, was like a major catalyst to who I am today as a man.
And those were great years at Southern Fried. I had such a good time in 2008 there, and 11 were just marvelous. So kudos for that. And kind of now too, like, how do you feel like coming in now as more kind of a professional poet and someone that's been in the game for a long time? What do you kind of feel like you get out of Southern Fried kind of on this new kind of level?
Yeah, so it's been so long for me. The last one I was in was 2013. So in many ways, I've been disconnected from the slam community and what is relevant poetry. What are people talking about now? But I think your truth is timeless, right? So whether I live for 30 years or not, I think people will always appreciate introspective work. And I actually noticed that this year, whilst maybe some work wasn't as well crafted as what we consider award-winning poetry, some people who scored better if they just told their story as opposed to having some amazing thematic poem about life or politics. It seems like poetry, in my opinion, from what I view, was that people are appreciating genuine stories more than how cleverly you can put a concept together. And I think that I wasn't fully prepared for that because in the earlier years, it was kind of how well can you deliver a concept.
Right.
And so one example is I had a poem called Alienation, which helped me to win nationals with Slam Charlotte in 2007. And it was kind of my go-to poem. So since I was slamming with a team from Abu Dhabi, I was like, relax, guys. I'll go first. I'll do this one. I know this is going to score really high. And it was like the second lowest scoring poem of the night. because maybe those judges didn't want to hear about illegal immigration. Maybe they didn't want to hear a story about some young girl, and maybe they did. I'm not sure, but the work that resonated was like if someone told their story of what happened when they were a child. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned, and that also I think people were super hungrier than normal. I spoke to you, who told me a little bit about their team's preparation and how you all, did scrimmage slams against other cities. And my team, we were online and we just put our team together a month and a half ago. It was beautiful to see kind of the effort put into it. I think the level of poetry the craft has really risen over the years. So overall, I would just say, even though it was online this year, I still felt like this big family connection, and I can't wait to see everybody in person in the future.
Absolutely. It was just a treat to see like all the familiar family and friends. And I think you're totally right that just getting back to people getting back to the heart of why they wrote the poem was, and people's personal stories, which is such a big theme this year. And that was, I think, really inspiring. It's just a great opportunity to hear so much great poetry. So what are your other poetry projects that you're working on right now?
So basically, in Abu Dhabi, we've been doing a monthly open mic called Rooftop Rhythms for close to 10 years now, So it has had to be online for the past year and a few months. So that's been an interesting process as you're doing virtual events. Some people are like, I don't even want to be on the computer, So I think these are innovative times, and I think the people who are doing virtual events are resilient, and I think it's needed. But poetry is all about that in-person connection and crowd connection. So we've been blessed to keep the show going. That is in conjunction with the Art Center at NYU Abu Dhabi, which is a world-renowned interdisciplinary performing arts center, and has official support of the U.S. mission, the U.S. Embassy to the UAE. So we've just been blessed to build relationships in the UAE, and I feel like the biggest stress I think a lot of time for poetry organizers is like the venue and how much revenue do they want to make. And so a big part of my success in the past 6 years is trying to move away from that model and try to get institutional support where it's more culture based and the crowds can come for free. And so I think that's just been a big part of the growth out here, is just having like something where we're really investing in like a community movement. And so that's been really great. I've branched out into other event planning, parties, things like that. But for the most part, poetry has really kind of been that foundation for me. So I teach as well. And then on the poetry end, I hope to do a new poetry album soon now that I finished the book. I have a hip hop album coming out. So I'm just I focus a lot of my career on providing platforms for other people, which I really enjoy. You're really good at that as well. I think there's something very rewarding about that. But then I also felt like I kind of lost sight of my own artistic endeavors. And so I've been just trying to invest more into my art. And so that's exciting.
That is exciting. And so if people want to learn more just about you as an artist, is there a website they should go to or a Facebook page?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm still investing more in the infrastructure of my artistry. But really Google would give a lot of kind of international media on some of the things I'm doing with events organizing. But I am trying to build up that platform so for people to clearly understand who I am as an artist. But I would say like iTunes, Spotify, you can type in Paul D and you'll see my different poetry and hip hop albums. I was also started in hip hop, so I was with a duo called Therapy, and unfortunately my rap partner passed away in 2020. That really also inspired me to like put the work out there and stop holding it in, because I want to also represent for my dear friend who passed. So thank you for that encouragement. I'll make sure I keep getting the artistry info out. But yeah, just by Googling Paul D, you should be able to find more information.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We will pop some links to your work into the chat. I hope everyone can join us back here tonight at 7 o'clock. We have 3 more poets that we're going to be featuring. Thank you again, Dorian Paul Rogers, and we will see everybody back here again tonight at 7 o'clock.